I'm going to go ahead and give everybody time to get in here. Hey, everybody. Yeah, we're going to start doing like long intros and allowing people a chance to get in here. Hi, everyone. Hi, everybody. So, listen, get out 4 app openings. You're going to input some data. So, you're going to be prepared for this class. Keisha, how you doing, honey? How you feeling? Becky, Pertraz, Ginger, of course, nice. Okay, so these are the charts we're going to do today, but I want you to set everybody's chart up. Every one of these gentlemen, set them up for the date of death for noon and Hamburg for Alfred Witte. Okay? So you guys can all get your charts ready. So open up the app, open up 4 different things. Do that while we get some things together. How is everybody? Nice. How you doing? You woke up?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Yeah. You're it's
Nice intro, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's a little
Yeah,
hard. It's a little hard to juggle, though. I'm not gonna lie.
right. No, but you did a great job. I mean,
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, really
yeah.
nice.
Well, wait till the class because the class is. We're hoping that, um, one of the things that I struggled with was the
Hmm.
math. And
Right.
before we get started, everyone should know that I barely passed 7th grade algebra, and the only reason I even passed is because, or was it 8th grade? One of those grades. Eighth. It was 8th grade because. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. How's your health, honey?
Right.
My algebra teacher, his father-in-law was running the impeach the president campaign for Nixon, and my father was running the support the president campaign, and he was first period class, and my father was headline news on the newspaper every frickin' day. And I'd go into school, and my algebra teacher would just like he wouldn't even let me some headlines. He'd just point to the door and say, "Get out." And it had like it just had nothing to do with math or algebra or anything. And nothing. This was my
Okay.
father and his father-in-law. All right. So where I should have gotten a really good foundation for algebra, I missed probably half the year. Consider what was going
Right.
on in 1972, where they were trying to fight over impeaching the president and his resignation. Okay, this was just Watergate and all of this stuff. And that was 74, actually. So somewhere around, yeah, 70, 73, 74, because I'd come back from Spain. So anyway, it's important before we get started to know that I'm about to explain algebra to you, and you're never going to frickin' believe how easy it is. And I cannot believe how hard this has been. This has been a battle my whole life. But this is some very basic algebra, really basic. And you've seen a lot of it. If you've researched Uranian astrology, you've seen a lot of algebra already. And you've seen some geometry, and I know that it's very confusing. And stick around because I promise you I'm going to make it easy for you. Okay? I'm going to make the astrology easier to understand and everything easier to understand. So Let's
Right.
get started. All right. Well, I'm happy to hear that, and I thank you so much for your ongoing support. Really,
Yeah.
nice
Thank you
to
so
have.
much.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. Thank you. So we all know where we are, and I think some people are confused about why we're here. Give me a second. Sure. Let me just copy and paste it all. My pleasure, Ginger. Hold on, darling. Hang in there. I'm going to post it in the chart. Okay? There we go. All right. So I just posted it in charts for you. Go down to the Hangout area. Oh, wait, class questions. I should do that in class questions. There. That way everybody has it. Okay. Don't forget, set it up for Witte's death. All right? Can we make sure we do that? Okay. Hi, Tia. Okay, so before kind of we get started, we know we're going to pray, but people are confused. Like, why are you doing this? People call me and they ask me this all the time. And Manly P. Hall, he said it, and I'm going to take a little bit of a creative license here. He said, a direct quote is, "We must learn to realize that the greater the knowledge, the greater the penalty for abusing it." That's the extent of his quote. I took some creative license with the rest, which is, the sin that is excusable in the ignorant is unforgivable in the wise. And if you question why we're doing this, that's why. I am wise enough to know how ignorant everyone is out here. And it would be unforgivable for me to sit in silence and continue to allow people to take advantage of people, to mislead them, and during, you know, the upcoming times ahead, it's going to be very important if people are working with or dealing with astrology and astrologers that we provide crystal clear information for them. So, uh, all of you, what you're watching here is the result of this one sentence. And I knew this almost a decade ago. And this was perhaps one of the most inspiring pieces of fuel that kept me going up until now. Is somebody had said to me, "You have too many working parts in that head of yours. I got to get you to write all this down." And that was true. That was perhaps one of the truest things that had been said. But the person who said it to me, he was so contaminated by Western astrology and the contagion that was spreading to me, to the work, that in the midst of trying to put all this together, here comes this Yahoo who doesn't know one planet symbol from another, trying to tell me what to do with astrology, that the astrology community failed him. And, his ignorance stands on the pile of money that he paid astrologers to keep him that way. So it's kind of astounding to me how astrology literally empowers the ignorant, and how they've been controlling the narrative and the work to its detriment, and that of others that they're supposed to be serving. So, I had to stop and do what I was doing, which was boarding out the work. And to this Yahoo's credit, we're going to, here and after, he's constantly going to be referred to as Yahoo. Okay? So, to this Yahoo's credit, he's the only person who, on really some ethereal level, recognized that all of the parts of this work needed to be organized and demonstrated in some sort of verbal or visual offering. He wasn't really sure. He was trying to feel it out. And I'm not saying Yahoo to be disrespectful. I'm saying Yahoo because it's like, let's go, let's get the show on the road. Yahoo, let's go. And I appreciated that. Okay. Um, Nobody other than Nice and I contributed as much to the work as far as observation and commentary, really. Okay. Nice and I have really battled out and worked this out in the past couple of years. But in terms of an observation and commentary, and I've heard many with regard to the work, eh, this was really powerful fuel. And I kept it in the back of my mind. All the people that I'd spoken with and all the astrologers who I shared my knowledge with free of cost, and I took a lot of time privately with a lot of people. Um, Not one person provided that kind of insight or truth because everybody had either their own agenda or their own ideas or their own working or whatever it was. They had their own things going on. And they were not, and Nice knows this about this person. This person has a couple of particular half sums that Nice and I share that line up
Right.
with that line up with this work. So this was one of those powerful things about proving out the work. And this individual really wanted to prove out the work, but you can't prove out Uranian astrology to somebody who's demanding Western astrology. Anyway, that's another story. So nobody really cared about the work or seemed to care about the work in developing it as much as Nice did and I did and Mr. Yahoo, Chief Yahoo. Okay? So for everyone, whatever it was about, control or what they wanted or needed from me or from the work or what they were looking for or what I could do for them, but it was never really largely about the work and what this work could do for the world at large, other than definitely Nice and I. I'm sure Mr. Yahoo had his own agenda, but I definitely know he had his own agenda. But that point was, very salient that we had to prove it out and make it something that everybody could see. And consider how many co-hosts I had. If you've come to the channel, you notice everything's gone. We're going to be parsing out and cutting up and editing our readings and our different co-hosts. And think about it. How many co-hosts did I have that were into astrology? Um,
Right.
yeah. What did they offer? How did their contribution make what we were doing better? Bad sound, terrible shows, chatting, really nothing. Now, some of the lawyer friends I had suggested that I board this out like an investigation. Somebody said, you should do this like a federal case. What's wrong with you? You know how to do this. And, one person in the 40 plus years in a world of astrologers and organizations and schools and experts provides this one common sense commentary, and they're not even an astrologer. And it was basic. It's like, you needed to organize the working parts of this astrology. And here I was boarding it out. So when somebody comes along that isn't an astrologer and says that and doesn't realize, I'm doing this, I'm boarding it out. But it's interesting that someone who wasn't even an astrologer understood this is what needed to be done, is to deconstruct it and reconstruct the work, make it understandable, make it visual, so that the many working parts to every chart could be understood, taught, and seen all at the same time. So the non-astrologer helped this work more than all of the astrologers and the astrology enthusiasts that I'd encountered, other than Nice. There's no Uranian astrologers, by the way. They're here, right here. Me, say hello, Nice.
Right.
Say hi to
Hi.
the people. Hi, here
Yeah.
we are. That's it. Not even Ruth knew how to do this. Alfred Witte was trying to get here and explain this to everyone. Everyone else is faking it with a bunch of foolishness that begins with the house system and calling themselves something they are not. They are Westeranian fools, and they can have whatever they want. Astrologers and their obstructionist methods and manner have long helped back the work while extorting money from people such as myself, Mr. Yahoo, his family, and other people. We've been robbed. And that's why we're here. Alfred Witte underwent the same troubles. He was obstructed. He was interfered. Everybody argued with him. Nobody supported him. Other than Friedrich Sieggrün, who really tried to help him, people competed. They colluded with each other. They collaborated against him, not with him, other than it would appear, based on his papers, Friedrich. Everybody else was taking pieces of him. So I've been boarding out this work for a long time, and I knew that the astrology needed to be organized and cleaned up and worked out to explain this method to others. And what this individual didn't realize is that, you know, I was developing this method so that other astrologers could see what I had been trying to explain to them. I was trying to show it to so many people, and it's like one person at a time. And I'm saying to them, get a group of people together. I'll put something together. The amount of time it takes to think this out, board this out, figure out how to explain this to other people, you cannot even begin to imagine. So I figured this out by studying my friends' charts and family's charts for 20 plus years. And I've been paying for it for many, 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 many years. So by 2001, when I saw my brother's death, I realized then that I knew then, I need to do something because they're wrong. This is what's right. And I need to get to the root of this and get some German and get what I don't know and put the rest of this together. And it took me 22 years to assemble this into what you guys are about to witness. I've taken everything else down because I've finally put it together the way it should be. And I understand Witte better than most because I experienced the same attacks, the same obstacles, the same phoning it in assistance he received, other than nice, the same, while he's busy trying to explain the way he established his theories and arrived at his conclusions, most of the people that are around him are latching onto him for what he could do for them. And some of the people helped, most assuredly, sharing as little as possible and always maintaining their position of control. I was close friends with two people whose jobs depended upon risk management and tried to tell them to help me put this together so I could share it with others. I learned from them that people play with astrologers and laugh and look down at them because their disposable income is just that. It's disposable. It doesn't mean anything to them. Just like the astrology and the astrologers they spend it on. And their mistakes have been my valuable lesson. I don't have to dumb down my work for people. I don't have to dumb down the astrology. This astrology was always risk management level work. I explained that clearly to them. I showed it to them in books. Nothing other than the usual BS in the end, and you'll realize that destinies cannot be altered. They're where they are, and I'm here now, and I'm no longer carrying anybody's dead weight. No astrologer's dead weight, no garbage dead weight. Like me, don't like me. But what's about to unfold here is groundbreaking. Last week was just the beginning. When you come to understand this astrology, you will understand that no one can control this work and that the karmic relief every astrologer on earth requires is to learn to serve the marginalized and to develop the work. I cannot say this enough to people. I've been around actual billionaires. I've been around royalty in my life. I've been around fame. And the fact is that when it comes to expert level skill in anything, including astrology, They come to you. They find you. You don't have to go to anybody. Just do your thing. They'll find you. And you better learn something that a lot of people need to know. You better be more than a pretty face in the world, because if all you are is a pretty face in astrology, you have a 15-minute head start before they find another astrologer, and they repeat the process until they find someone who can repeatedly impress them with on-point predictions. Nothing more and nothing less, and every single person who works intuitively is destroying the name of astrology in the work. This is a science and it's a language. It's not a metaphysical skill. Don't worry about me. I'm not your competition. The people who come to me and need something from me, they want more than astrology. They want business savvy. They want all kinds of things you people, for the most part, at least in the world of astrology, cannot provide for them. So for those that are dedicated, though, and study and practice daily, they can master the work in probably a year, maybe 2 years. That is, providing you study our method, follow and apply every nuance and layer of this work that I started showing you last week into every one of your readings. It'll take several more years to learn how to be expedient, but all that aside, and what's most important once and for all, is that this is a system and a method of astrology that not only are we proving that it's accurate and it's scientific and teachable, others can replicate it and they can see your findings. So this is the proper method. Don't incorporate your other stuff in here. Don't do it. It's going to screw you up. On that note, we're going to get to our prayer. So let's get everybody to take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Nice, deep breath of unification with each other. And a nice, deep breath of unification with God. Dear God, we ask that you guide each of us in our path, that we would find clarity in Uranian astrology. Remove from us the blocks of self-proclaimed experts and expertise, and show us the truth in the stars. Inspire each of us to seek only divine proof in astrology. Please strip us of all false beliefs and reveal only profound truth. Allow divine knowledge to burst forth into our highest vibration and awareness. May we feel our spiritual connection with celestial DNA in all of us more deeply, powerfully, and substantially than ever before. Please open our minds, our hearts, and souls, that we would each find enlightenment. And so it is, and we thank you. Amen. Okay, guys, on to the bane of my existence. Watch how I make this easy for you. So, astrology is based on ancient Babylonian math. This means that their base is a sexagesimal numeric system. They work in 60ths. We work in time, hours, days, see? That's how we put it together. So all of their multiplication was done using a square-dependent formula. And using only their table of squares, up to 59, by the way, to be exact. This is where we get into the challenging part. Pay attention. They computed the sum of two integers. For you, those of you that don't speak English, two numbers. Okay? So that would be A and B. Insert any number you want in there. The A and B in the parentheses in this part of the slide, right here, okay, represents or is also the lowercase a and b before the equal sign in this slide. It's the same. Do you see? That's what algebra is. So this A and B, this is the same as all of this, from bracket to bracket. Do you see the 2 minus, and then the 2 in the bracket? At the end, the square brackets indicate the end point inclusion. They mean this is the end of the equation. The parentheses, these, indicate the end point of exclusion. Okay? This right here, the slash, this indicates division, and this is the number they divide it by. Doesn't it seem like the math is a lot simpler than you thought? And they led us to believe? Write those things down. That's all that algebra ever was. That's it. So the ancient Babylonians also knew and used the Pythagorean theorem. Does this look familiar to you guys? This is where Witte came up with all of this. And I bet for some of you, a lot of this has looked familiar. Right? Astrologers have long extorted money from students by overcomplicating this. Moreover, you don't really need to know it. There's excellent free software all over the internet to compute the math. So astrologers really shouldn't be wasting people's money doing this by hand. They should know it. They should be able to check it. Okay, nobody needs to be doing this manually. We had to do this for years manually. It's not worth it, and it's definitely, it sucks up a lot of time and a lot of people's money, and there's no point. But you should know or understand. You slept through that class. You know, for some people, math is really exciting. Anyway, let's get on to the rest of this and what it means for astrology. So this is a place where people get a little bit confused. I got thrown out, guys. I didn't have a chance to sleep through it. I was just out over politics. I missed algebra over politics. Okay, historical politics, no less. Anyway, a lot of people are confused in Uranian astrology because there's 4, not 3 suns. We have the natal or radix. We have the directed, which is directed using solar arc directions. That's mathematical. Okay, we'll get into how to do the math part of that at some other time. And transits. And then there's the solar arc sun. This is the one that screws everybody up. So we're going to get into that right now and see if we can't explain this to you guys. But before we do that, we want you to remember that when it comes to math and what you're looking for, always add clockwise on the dial and subtract counterclockwise. Keep that in mind. We're always adding clockwise and we're subtracting counterclockwise. So let's start with Alfred Witte's chart. Did everybody get his chart up like I asked you to? For those of you that are late, That's his birth date there. So let's go over things. This is Alfred Witte's natal sun. His natal sun resides on a 360-degree dial. I'm going to explain this to everybody in 360 degrees and then the breakdown of 90 degrees. His ascendant and his meridian and ascendant are based on moving his information to Eimsbüttel, Eimsbüttel, Germany, which was in the beginning of the class. So it's actually not wrong. We got better information. Somebody provided us his where he was actually living in Hamburg. Also where he was living when he died. So that would change the meridian and the ascendant a little bit. At the beginning of the class, I put that up, I think. I did have Eimsbüttel, right? Okay. Thank you. So obviously moving him locationally would change his ascendant a little bit. Okay. Nice to know you're paying attention, though. Good looking out, Blake. All right, so this is his natal sun. And his natal sun is located at 342 degrees, 9 minutes, and 30 seconds on a 360-degree dial. When we reduce it, it's at 72 degrees by 4. Remember, we divide everything by 4 on the 90-degree dial. So it arrives at 72 degrees, 9 minutes, and 30 seconds on the 90-degree dial. Now, keeping in mind what we learned last week, this makes this Sun-Neptune energy. Always keep that in mind. Never forget that we broker in energy, not bullshit. Okay? It's not planets and signs. This is science. It's energy. All right. Next. This is his directed sun. His directed sun, at the day of his death, had reached 44 degrees, 36 minutes, and 4 degrees on the 360-degree dial. So it's still Sun-Neptune energy, but now we add Venus energy. So it's Sun, Neptune, Venus energy, and when we reduce it, it's in the same spot. Divided by 4, it can't be, because that's not what we do. It's already there. If it's within 0 to 90 degrees, we don't have to divide it. Okay. Next, we have the transiting sun. So everybody's transiting sun, if you set up everybody's chart the right way, everybody's transiting sun should be in the same spot, everybody's ascendant should be in the same spot, and everybody's meridian should be in the same spot of the 4 charts that we're doing. Don't forget that. So his transiting sun, and everybody's transiting sun that day, is at 131 degrees, 37 minutes, and 3 seconds on a 360-degree dial. This doesn't change. This is a transit. So this is just sun-sun energy. Okay? Anyway, when we reduce 131, when we divide it 131 degrees and 37 minutes and 3 seconds by 4, that's 41 degrees, 37 minutes, and 3 seconds down here. Now, this is where people get confused. This is his solar arc sun. I keep telling everybody that the cheat sheet is that it's 0 degrees Aries. Wherever 0 degrees Aries is, in the directed chart, that's where the solar arc chart is. but you still need to know the math and understand it. So here we have 4, not 3 suns. Now let's do the math here. And let me explain this to you. Okay? This is his solar arc chart. This is the math and the formula for solar arc. We take the directed sun, which remember was at 44 degrees, 36 minutes, and 4 seconds. We subtract, because we're doing this on a 360-degree dial as far as the math goes. You always keep the math on a 360-degree dial. You don't need to see the dial to do the math. You need to know the math, okay? That's what you need to do. So we subtract 342 degrees, 9 minutes, and 30 seconds from 44 degrees. How can you do that? Well, yes, it's going to end up negative. But we're working in a sexagesimal system. So all we have to do with the negative is add 360 degrees back to it, and it's going to put us at 64 degrees, 37 minutes, and 3 seconds on the dial. Is anybody confused about how we did that? Because some people get confused. Remember, if it's too much or too little, you add or subtract, simple, add or subtract 360 degrees. It's a sexagesimal system. It's because it's in 60th, you can do that, and it will always fall in the right place on the dial. Also, the reason why when we divide it by 4, it falls in the right place on a 90-degree dial. Everything has already been divided by squares. That's the entire method. That's what the ancient Babylonians, there you go. Couple of things you learned. Now you know ancient Babylonian math. What do you think about that? Is anybody confused? Because he has one of these. Sometimes it's over, but he has one of these where it's over. Okay. So nobody's got any questions? Next, let's do Friedrich. No, it's not doing math. It's where is it on a 360-degree dial. You determine the energy of a planet based on where it lands on a 360-degree dial. So if it lands in the first 30 degrees, it's going to have Mars energy. If it lands in the next 30 degrees, it's going to have Venus energy. If it lands in the next 30 degrees, it's going to have Mercury energy. That's all from last week. Remember the planets and all the degrees and what that energy is? Remember last week's class? That instead of signs, energy. Always add the energy that's representative. Good, good. That's a good question, though. You're probably not the only one who got confused, so thank you for asking. Good. Okay. All right. We just did all the charts. Why didn't you ask when we did that? Let's go back. You weren't looking at the charts, Greg. You were? So how do you not see it? Are you doing this with us? It's helpful if you do this with us. Yes, the Aries point right here. And look up here. This is the solar arc. You see it at the top? And when you do the math, when you do the math, when you take the directed sun, do you remember where the directed sun was? When you take this and you subtract this from this was at 44 degrees. This was at what, 320 something? Three, yeah, 332. So this is at 44. So you're subtracting 332 from this. 342, right? And then at the end, you add 360 degrees. See? Oh, let me do something here. I'm just noticing something. Give me a second here. We want to make sure we get. There we go. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm calling it the fourth sun, but it's the solar arc sun. Yeah, it's a really It's one of the things that confuses a lot of people in the beginning of Uranian astrology. So really, the best way to explain it is that there's four suns. Well, that's why you're taking the class, right? we'll get to that. And it's very important, by the way. In fact, the truth of the matter is one of the biggest misnomers and misrepresentations of Uranian astrology is that you just really need to look at the solar arc sun. You always need to look at the entire chart. Every time you do a reading, every time you're looking for something, you must look at the entire chart all the time. Here, let me set this. This is still not right. Hold on. Oh, I know what it is. This is I'm going to have to do an adjustment with, and I'm sorry I'll get to it, but I probably can't do it right now. But with my screen resolution here. Okay, so let's get to Friedrich's chart. Because you're working in 60th. You're working you're working in 60th. You're not doing regular math. Guys, it's really, really important to show up at the beginning because we already explained that. No, it shouldn't be 296. It ends up at 64 after we divide it. That's where it ends up on this style. And remember, it ended up minus 64. So when you add 360, it's going to be plus 64. That's it. See, that's one of the things where the math I had a friend of mine, really actually a couple, but there was one in particular who was a math genius. He went to Hopkins because he was a math genius. And he read the technique book twice and couldn't understand it because he works with money. In fact, another friend of mine, we were out at a cocktail party at like one of these big events in the Intercontinental Hotel in Miami, and somebody had asked, what this other friend of ours did, and this one friend says he owns a bank. I was like, he does not. He said, yes, he does, because of what he does. He owns a liquor store and a check cashing business. Actually, a pretty well known one that's right on the border of Hialeah, Miami, right there by the airport. He's been in the paper a bunch of times for his sign. All right, that's another story. Anyway, yeah, right. He's that's what he's famous for. Not his math genius skills, but his writing a sign on a liquor store. Okay, so here is Friedrich's natal sun, which is at 268 degrees 35 minutes and 52 seconds on a 360-degree dial. So that's when the sun is crossing the Jupiter constellation. So we're in Sag, so now we're Sun Jupiter, right? Or not the Jupiter constellation, Sagittarius constellation. So this is a Sun Jupiter energy. Okay? And when we divide it by 4, it's 88, 35, 52. That's why it's there. So if all of you, actually, if you pull up your planetary tables, you'll see how everything is divided all the way down to the 16th. Those are your three columns. You have the first harmonic, which is 360, the fourth harmonic. This is ancient Babylonian math, so it's the first harmonic not divided by anything, the fourth harmonic divided by 4, the 16th harmonic divided by 16, and so on and so on and so on. That's astrology. All of astrology works on that math. Astrology operates on ancient Babylonian math. Okay. So we reduce it again. We're working on a 90-degree dial, so that's where we find this over here. Great. Now, here's his directed sun. So now his directed sun has moved to 333 degrees, 12 minutes, and 55 seconds. So he's now a Sun Jupiter. At the time of Witte's death, he is a Sun Jupiter Neptune energy. And when we reduce the dial again by 4, it's at 63, 12, 55, right there. His solar arc, you see this right there? Because look how close his sun, his natal sun, is to the Aries point. See this? This is where all of us come out into the world, by the way. And this represents what's going on out in the world and how the world knows us. Not necessarily who we are, but the Aries point represents how the world knows us and what's going on out in the world. Okay? So do you see that they're very close together here? Okay. So, again, the transiting sun, same spot. His solar arc sun is based on the same formula as Witte. We don't change the formula. Only in his particular case, the directed sun sum is higher than his natal sun. There you go. Thank you. It's also by force. This is done. This all of this math is done in 60th. I'm sorry, I didn't see the question before that because I was busy looking at the presentation. Okay. So this is the same. This is the same. Hold on a second. I'm having a problem here again. We want you to see this, and you can't see the slide. I really need to fix this. There. Let's get that there. Okay. There we go. I want to get that there. I want to make sure that everybody can see this. There we go. Okay. Well, the problem if I make it smaller is I'm making it smaller in a different, I have to make my screen smaller. That's a whole thing with my computer that I need to make smaller. This, if I make it smaller, I don't think it's going to help. See? Does it? Oh, maybe it does. Oh, yeah, it does. Thank you, Ginger. Even better. Perfect. It's so helpful. See, that's what I need. Help. Help. In case none of you people have figured this out, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am a master Uranian astrologer. That's it. That's my number one, top of the line skill. Everything else, it's a crapshoot. I'm winging it. I'm trying to figure it all out. All good and wise help is appreciated. All right, so anyway, let's get back to the math. Because his directed sun is a larger number than his natal sun, we're not going to have the same problem we had with Witte. If we subtract the natal sun that was at 268 degrees and 35 minutes and 52 seconds from his directed sun, we get 64 degrees, 37 minutes, and 3 seconds. And it's right there. By the way, when you reduce it, you can't. It's right there. Anything from 0 to 90, everybody's, when you reduce it, from 0 to 90, you're not reducing anything. Anything over 90 has to be divided. Anything under 90, leave it alone. Actually, even over 90, you're not really dividing. Well, yeah, it's got to be 90 plus something. You have to add a second or something. Otherwise, you're leaving it alone. And then it's milliseconds. Okay. So, moving on. By the way, he is Sun Neptune at that point. Sun Neptune Mercury. Because at 64 degrees, that's ruled by Mercury. Don't forget that. So you notice all of them have this Sun, Neptune. You're going to see this repeated Sun, Neptune, Uranus. Always keep this energy in mind. All right, so let's move on to Hermann. Hermann, by the way, as far as Witte's papers, and I've confirmed this from someone who's fluent in German. He supposedly was Witte's teacher. Friedrich was his colleague, more his colleague from what his papers indicate than anyone else. No one was more of a colleague than Hermann, at least what his papers indicate. Or not Hermann, Friedrich. Hermann was a teacher, so says Hermann, and maybe some of his papers or whatever. I don't know. It's really very hard to determine what the truth is based on what we do have. So I'm not really sure whether he was supportive or obstructive or jealous. It's hard to say. Uh, mm, this does not bode well. Okay. So, sorry. Phones ring through. I have my phone, so everything rings through everything. But I make sure my son's got it. Anyway, take note, by the way, that his Uranus, Hades, Mars goes right down here to Witte's midpoint of being a Uranian astrologer. Just keep that in mind. Okay. Anyway, we see that Hermann has a 97-degree, 37-minute, 21-degree sun. That's his natal sun. If you divide it by 4, it comes to 7 degrees, 30 minutes, 21 seconds. So he has sun moon energy. All right? That's that's what his natal sun energy is. Sun moon. All right? His directed sun had moved into Leo. So it was 137 degrees, 51 minutes, and 32 seconds. You pull up your planetary table and you'll see this, which when reduced, 47 degrees, 51 minutes on the 90-degree dial, and 32 seconds. Okay? So now he's a sun, moon, sun person. He has double sun energy. Triple sun energy because the sun is in Leo at that time. So this is sun, sun. This is sun, sun, moon. And this is sun, moon. And his solar arc sun arrives at 40 degrees, 12 minutes, and 11 seconds. So this is what it is when we're done with the math. We subtract his natal sun from his directed sun, and now it's at 40 degrees, 12 minutes, and 11 seconds. So now this is sun, moon, Venus. That's what his solar arc sun energy is. Does that make sense? All right. It's very important to factor in the energy of the planets. It's not sign stuff. It's energy. It's not planets through houses and signs. It's always energy. This is a science. This is what Witte was trying to say. That's what sacred geometry is. Sacred geometry requires that energy repeats itself, that there is this repetitive pattern in nature. I don't know what astrologers have been talking about for years. It's like mind-boggling to me that they think they know what they're saying. Worse than that is when you look at what's supposed to be academic papers that miss the mark completely. I cannot tell you how many academic papers I have read, and I have never once seen the reference and the explanation of what the sacred geometry of astrology is, which is why I was like, we just have to like explain it. Clearly, nobody knows what it is. This is what it is. This in the triple pattern. So you're always looking for the repetition of patterns. That's why he reduced the charts. That's why he was trying to explain. You add this, you subtract this. This makes this null and void. That's what he was working on. He couldn't get to it, but that's what he was trying to get to. Poor man. I sympathize with him. For real. It's impossible, almost, because astrologers control the narrative. If you want to say something clear or intelligent, there's just way too many people drowning out the sound. Anyway, lastly, for this part of our class, the solar arc demonstrations, we have Ludwig. Ludwig was the publisher. That is what Ludwig did. He published everybody. And the first book that he published was the rule book. So it stands to reason that Witte paid for it because he called the publishing company Witte Publishing. That's what Verlag is. When you see Verlag on the books, that means publisher in German. Okay. So Ludwig's natal sun is at 289 degrees, 2 minutes, and 5 seconds on a 360-degree dial. If we reduce this by 4, by the way, that's Sun-Saturn. That makes him a Sun-Saturn energy. So if we reduce this by 4, we're now at 19 degrees, 2 minutes, and 5 seconds. See, right there. Okay. His directed sun, at the time of Witte's death, had moved to 338 degrees, 13 minutes, and 56 seconds. So now we have Sun, Saturn, Neptune energy. And we reduce that, and it's at 68 degrees, 12 minutes, and 56 seconds. And of course, the transiting sun is in the same place. The sun is in Leo. And his solar arc sun, when we subtract and do the math, is at 49 degrees, 11 minutes, and 50 seconds. So that is Venus energy. So when again, he doesn't have a sun sum that is larger than his directed. His natal sun sum is not larger than his directed sun sum. So we're subtracting 289 degrees and 2 minutes and 5 seconds from 338 degrees, 13 minutes and 56 seconds. So we don't have to reduce this because of where this ends up. It's between 0 and 90. We don't have to reduce it. Okay, next, we're going to do sensitive point math. So it's kind of the same thing, but we're adding in a third planet. So it's the same exercise, and you add or subtract accordingly. Now, if you understand what a half sum is, then you understand that's how we came up with this. He added these two together, and then when you divide everything by 4, it lands in the same spot. That's part of the brilliance of his work, and that it was in keeping with this. So the first chart that we're going to do here is, I don't know why it's showing. It's not showing, actually. Is we're going to do Alfred Witte's Uranus Apollon as a sensitive point. So if you open up the planetary table on Witte's chart, you'll see that his Uranus is at 146 degrees, his natal Uranus, by the way, at 146 degrees, 47 minutes, and 52 seconds, and that it's retrograde. And in a later class, we'll discuss retrograde planets in Uranian astrology. His Hades is at 315 degrees and 36 minutes and 1 second, and that his Apollon is at 123 degrees, 55 minutes, and 19 seconds. So let's go over this. This is Sun Uranus. This is Uranus Hades. And this is Sun Apollon energy. Is that clear to everyone? Is anybody confused about how we got there? Okay. Also, pull this up on your own chart. No? What do you mean yes and then no? What are you not clear about? Pull up the planetary table. Again, we're going back to last week's class. 146 is Sun. Under the Sun, Hades is 300 and finds it itself 315 degrees on the dial, is ruled by Uranus. Okay, good. So this is what we do here. We add Uranus and Apollon, and we get, with 146 plus 47, or 146 degrees, 47 minutes and 52 seconds, plus 123, 55, 13, it equals 270, 4309. That's the Uranus plus Apollon. Also, if you take the dial and you try to find the midpoint, just the midpoint, eyeballing it, you'll see that's the axis point it falls on. Again, the brilliance of Witte, the unappreciated brilliance of him. So now we have, this is the total of Uranus Apollon, but if we're looking in the rule book, Uranus Apollon Hades is the Uranian Astrology school or the Uranian astrologer. And by the way, if you go back to our videos, some of you remember, and I left some of those videos up from 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and even back on Blog Talk Radio, I was telling people before the new rule book came out that this is what this was. So it was nice to see when they did the addition in the rule book that they actually submitted that. Anyway, when we subtract Hades, we're subtracting Hades from 270 degrees, 43 minutes, and 9 seconds. So we're back to the same problem we had with Witte's solar arc. We're subtracting a sum that is larger than the total we're using. So that gives us a negative 45 degrees, 36 minutes, and 1 second. But because we're using the math system that we're using, when we add 360 degrees, we get to 315 degrees, 36 minutes, and 1 second. And where does that land on the dial, guys? Uranus, Apollon, Hades. If you've read the beginner's manual, if you've listened to other classes, the meridian represents who we are, the essence of us, our soul. This represents us way more than our sun. Whatever is happening on this point in your chart, if your chart has been rectified, is definitely affecting you. And wherever this is in direction is definitely very personal to you. So the meridian is a misunderstood point in astrology. What we have here, and we're going to go over their charts a little bit in a few after this demonstration, but we have Uranus, Apollon, equals Hades, equals Meridian Admeto, equals Chronos Volcanus. All of this equals Hades, equals Ascendant Jupiter, equals Capito Poseidon. By the way, nice, is some of this resonating in a chart as being familiar?
Hmm.
Yep, you've seen some of these
Yep.
patterns in other charts, haven't you?
Yes.
We're going to get to that. There's some
Right.
profound master level stuff here, believe me. It's just, when you see this, doesn't this just make you go, oh my God, how could they have screwed this up?
Yeah.
They really, guys, nobody knows what they're doing. You better stick around here. They really do not know what they're doing. This West Iranian crap is ruining it. Anyway, so if you do this, you're going to realize this is not only saying that he's a Uranian astrologer, but this is telling you from the very beginning. And imagine this guy knowing this. This is going to kill me. This is going to be the cause of my death. People are going to want to control it, and they're going to be willing to kill me for it. And I'm pretty sure that by the time we're done with this course from beginner to master, which will take many months, possibly even a year, we're going to be able to reveal the truth of what happened between these four men and who they really were. So there's your sensitive point math. Is anyone confused? I'm waiting because, it's YouTube and a delay. People have to type. By the way, if somebody's confused about something and they have a question, the best thing to do, there you go, I am. That's write something like me, or here. Don't write out your whole confusing question first. Let us know. Okay, what are you confused about so we can go over it? Because we really want to make sure everybody understands what's going on. It's the total. When you subtract, what do you mean? How do you define it? Greg, you got to stay with the class. Right now, we're doing the math. We're going to explain what it means after that. You got to pay attention. This is the math portion of this lecture, okay? Not the interpret what it means portion. We were covering all the math and reminding you to keep that energy, but right there, that right there, that's Hades to the Aries point, which indicates that whatever he worked on or what he was doing, it needed reparation, and the world needed to know about it. But we'll get to the definition of what all this means in a minute. I just want to go over one more sensitive point math. The important thing is to know or understand the math. So if you're reading something or some research paper or somebody types something, you understand it. And this way also you'll know when people are bullshitting you. I cannot even begin to tell you how many of these people don't know what they're saying and just really miss the boat on the math. All right, so let's do Friedrich. His Uranus is also kind of Sun Uranus energy because it's in Leo. He has Uranus in Leo. It's also retrograde. It's at 149 degrees, 22 minutes, and 1 second. Because we have the three columns, by the way. You see this in the planetary table. This is the first harmonic. This is the fourth harmonic. This is the 16th harmonic. The app has broken down the math for you from the first to the fourth for all of those of you that are coming from Western and you don't understand it. This is the breakdown. This is what it is. This is where things are on a 360-degree dial. This is where they are when you divide them by 4 or you multiply them by 4. Because everything in his math, it's ancient Babylonian math. You're either multiplying or dividing by 4 or by some number of 4 squares. It's all squares up to 59. That's the math. Okay. Next, Apollon, also retrograde. Also, what is it? Sun energy. So it's Sun Apollon. When it's reduced, 34 degrees, 46 minutes, and 15 seconds. And his Hades was also in Aquarius. So that's Uranus Hades. Okay? So this up here is Sun Uranus. This is Uranus Hades. And down here, this is Sun Apollon. Is that clear to everybody what the energy is? Very important to always keep that in mind. All right, so let's do this. When we add, this is where it comes to, and subtract it. Uranus Apollon, it comes to here. We subtract the Hades. It's down here. See, I'm doing these in a little different way because I don't know what you're reading and whose stuff you're reading. So I want you to be familiar with the many different ways you will see this work. And I know that they do it in like a square kind of mathematical formula in some of the book, but it's really simple. The important thing here is don't get confused by the math. There shouldn't be a minus. I don't know why this is here, but it shouldn't be there because it's not a negative sum. It's a mess on the slide. This stuff takes a lot of work. My mistake, but don't factor that in, okay? Here, let me make sure. There. Solve that problem. There we go. Okay. So this 149 degrees, 22 minutes and 1 second, plus 124 degrees, 46 minutes and 15 seconds equals 320 degrees, 2 minutes and 12 seconds. And when you divide that by 4, that comes to 50 degrees, 2 minutes and 12 seconds. And if you're ever confused where something lands on the 90-degree dial, it's going to tell you up there. Okay? I didn't put the Hades in. You have to subtract Hades. I told you I made a mistake on this slide. Subtract the Hades. If you subtract the Hades, I didn't put the degrees of Hades in. Are you looking at the slides? Okay. I apologize for that, and I'll fix it, but subtract the Hades. I've had a really busy week. You guys know the market crash? People were nuts this week because I predicted that last year, and I told a lot of people, I spoke to a lot of people about this. And I posted it on Facebook because I didn't want to be bothered anymore, and I was like, there it is. Yeah, divide by 4. Always divide it by 4. Everything, don't forget we're gonna go over that in a second. All right. Let's get to doing some astrology. All right. See? 320 divided by 4. There you go. Ancient Babylonian math. 60th. Sexagesimal system. That is what it's called. Okay. Sorry about the Hades. I'll add that in there. But it's you subtract the Hades. Okay, guys. So this was my Astro World. This is our lecture. This is the school. Now, this is where we get into, Greg, this is where anything goes. Your open forum. Like if I didn't cover it in the lecture, if this lecture was about the math, so if I didn't cover it in the lecture, this is where you come after the lecture and go, can we go over some of this in some of these charts? But do us a favor, guys. It takes a lot of time to do this, and even with the couple of mistakes I made, it takes a lot of time to put this together. So if you have comments and questions other than the mistakes that we will fix and that we explained, please still remember to like us, comment, and share, and leave your comments and your questions either on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, or on YouTube. Preferably on YouTube, guys. Don't make us go hopping all over the place. One of the best places you can leave a question or a comment is going to be on YouTube. The fact that people got me hopping all over the internet, it's a waste of time. And it ends up being very confusing. And this is how you end up with bad slides or mistakes or errors, having to jump from one thing or to another. So it would be really helpful if people are benefiting from this class, if you cooperate with us and make us easier. Yeah, questions in the comment section of this video. But if you have questions about this video and you're here, now's a good time to ask.
Do you want to just jump in student lounge? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. If you have questions about this class and you're here, ask them now live, and we're going to go over some charts now. Okay? So if you guys were listening to me at the beginning, I asked all of you to open up the charts. You'll see that I have everybody's chart open. If you haven't joined, this is what you want to join. This is what we've all been using is the app. Okay? So the app is free. All you have to do is register for the app. You have to confirm your email. If you're a Gmail user, then you have to check your, your promotional files sometimes, or it go to trash. Just check your different files because it says free. And since it says free, sometimes it goes to spam or trash or promotional files, but it's free. So we want people to know you're not paying for it. What are you What browser are you using? And what's not working in it? Firefox, it doesn't really work in. It's probably operator error. That's why we tell you to copy and paste. If you go down to this in this class on this YouTube thing, if you scroll, it's probably you probably have an extra space or something you shouldn't have. Well, maybe I put an extra space I shouldn't have. Try it again. And definitely Chrome, not Firefox. And
Right.
you're saying the tri-dial isn't pulling up? So if you do this, let me type this in. Uh, this would be how Witte's data would look for the transit, for the app. I'm going to type it right into YouTube. That would be the time, and the place would be Hamburg, Germany. So if you copy that exactly the way it is and hit enter with Hamburg, don't try to fill in the longitude and latitude. The coordinates are filled in by the app. Believe me, the coordinates are fine. We don't need anybody to look them up. There's only a couple of coordinates you may have to look up for an exact address, and it may be because it's historically not there anymore. But a lot of times when the app appears to not be working, it's operator error. It happens to all of us. Make sure you don't have extra spaces. Go back, use a backspace. Sometimes when you copy and paste it here in this part of it, sometimes when people copy and paste, you watch, I'm going to do this right from YouTube. Hold on, where did I do that? I'm copying and pasting this right out of YouTube, and that's actually the date of his death. So let me cut that and paste it down here. Paste Hamburg, Germany. That'll do that. And up here, let me get his. Oh, wrong place. Okay. So see how it is? Yeah. Listen, I've done it too. I can't tell you how many times Nice has said to me, "Make a backspace, hit enter." it takes it takes a little. Even in regular software, I've had other problems. Okay, where did I go? All right, let's everybody get to Witte's chart, and we're going to talk. Greg, this is the part you've been waiting for. So the Aries point, which is misunderstood. First of all, most astrologers don't even factor the Earth that we live on into their astrology, which, by the way, makes scientists look at everybody in astrologers like, oh, look at these idiots. How can you not factor in the planet you're living on? So 0 degrees Aries represents the planet we're living on. It represents us here now. And we're going to get into the theory Witte was trying to get to and working on with people, but he wasn't able to get to it because, astrologers, which is the reflection of the higher octaves, which gives us the yin and the yang, the positive and the negative vibration, and the energy resulting in what we're doing. So it fills in the blanks and the gaps that Western astrology leaves, which are many, and I mean many. Okay? So, to begin with, if we come over here using the app and we go to his half sum, it goes directly to his Hades. And as we taught you last week, this is the now of his life. He comes into the world in the now of his life with this karma. So if you come down this list, and if you go down this list, a lot of his work was secret. There were changes. I have theorized that he was a gay man. Yes. Well, you work at a lot of problems out in the world. On top of which, when you were working as a dog groomer, you fix things. Anybody who fixes things, uh, excavators, people who fix problems, people who work in sanitation, cleaning, research, medicine, people who've been born into the world in problems or who work on problems or who work on helping problems, because Hades is reparation. Wherever someone's Hades is, it's karma, it's problems, but it's also reparations. It's things that need to be cleaned or fixed. It's things that are historical. They're from history. They represent karma, too. So he comes into the world, though. Wait, before we even get into the half sums, this is karma by itself. Hades equals in Mito. This is the half sum or the midpoint. I don't know what's the half sum. Hold on. Okay, so it's Hades, 40, Mitos. So, that'd be 670. Yeah, so even this is secretive. Even this falls in as transformative and secretive. We'll get into that another time. Always factor in the energy. For example, if we come around here, let's do this like this. Coming down here in his natal chart, right here, so he's a meridian moon person. His ascendant is ascendant, so it's ascendant Venus. All right. His sun is Sun Neptune. His moon is Moon Uranus. His node is Node Uranus. His Mercury is Mercury Uranus. His Venus is Venus Uranus. His Mars is Mars Venus. His Jupiter is Jupiter Saturn. His Saturn is Saturn Neptune. His Uranus is Uranus Sun, so it's Sun Uranus. And his Neptune is Venus Neptune, by the way, further supporting the homosexuality. His Pluto is Venus Pluto. So the guy had a thing about transforming stuff. Capito, Gemini. Okay, so this is Mercury Capito. This would indicate that the groups of people that this guy likes to be around and spend energy around and spend his time with, it's cerebral. The Hades, he comes into this world with this transformative, secretive, reparative, intense karma. Zeus, the creative spark of man, resides in two things predominantly in Uranian astrology. Uranus is one of them, Zeus is the other. Zeus is really considered the firing pin. There's no patent, there's no invention, there's nothing in life without Zeus as a powerful planet aspecting personal points and planets for Uranian astrology. So this here also is cerebral. Mars Chronos. This is authoritative. He worked for the government. He was a registered Nazi. He believed in the rule of law and following the authorities, probably also trying to keep his secret as a gay man. Son of Pollen, Admetos. This is Neptune Admetos. You should look up all of these energies in the rule book, by the way, because they factor very heavily into who he is as a native. Vulcanus, Venus. Whatever this guy loved, whatever mattered to him, it was powerful. And he did something about it. I would imagine he loved astrology very much, and that's why we're all here today, is because of his passion and love for mathematics and astrology and solving problems. Poseidon. So this is interesting because this is Mercury Poseidon. The way we would read this when we put his whole chart together is that he would have had very deep and profound thoughts about how to use things to benefit people. Very analytical. Like how do you put this together so that mankind can benefit at large? Greg, are you keeping up with me? Is this making more sense to you and helping you understand this a little bit better? And everybody else for that matter? And we're going to get to the Hades and stuff. Okay, good. All right. So you have to keep this in mind of this is who the native is. This is the thing about Uranian astrology, and that was that comment about there's so many working parts, there's too many working parts in that head of yours. That's the task of the Uranian astrologer, is to try to remember all of the working parts at once. What's wrong with the app? Tell us what kind of problems you're having with the app. We don't have a list of have some. So are you saying when you right click it, you have to right click? You take the mouse, you right click on the planet, and the list comes up. You have to make sure you're clicking in the right spot, though. Try it again. Highlight the planet first. Make sure the planet highlights again. You may need to reboot your computer. What operating system are you using? Windows 11? Yeah, no. Don't do that. Windows 11 hasn't worked the kinks out. If you guys are using software that hasn't worked, especially operating software, always be like a generation or two behind on operating software. And I would not advise Windows 11 for this. Maybe that's why you have problems too. I don't have 11 and I'm not getting it. I'm going to stay old school as long as I can. So maybe it's the setup. I don't know. I'm staying away from Windows 11 though. Oh, you have to get a new PC. I fix my PCs, Ginger. That was one of the things I learned is how to fix my computers. You may have other things that conflict with it. Remember, this is
Yeah.
a yeah, this is an open source app, not an open source, but a web app. So if you're using operating systems and other things, it might conflict with a web application.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We can work with you, I guess. Like maybe after the show. Yeah. We can get online and we can talk. I think this. I
Yeah,
think I
if
need to see
anybody
your
else,
screen to
yeah,
to to help you with this. Yeah.
if anybody else, are you on the server? Is Greg on the server?
I think so.
You tried to be. Under what name? Under this name? Okay. If did you have a headset? Because you can't. We don't admit you to the server until we've spoken to you, and we ask you that if you join the server and you're taking these classes, you have to have a headset, a good headset, and to please keep all of your sound turned off in the background. Keep your, you should be in a quiet room. This is a class. You should treat it as such. I take a lot of time and energy and effort to prepare this, and the least people could do is show up and, not have all kinds of background noise and stuff going on because it ends up on YouTube. So if we're able to speak with you, you have a headset. Okay. So, but you weren't able to speak with me. Yeah, we haven't spoken. Yeah, that's why you're not on the server yet. You're on the server, you're just not admitted to the school. So when we speak, we'll clear you. Well, the protocol is we have to speak with you. Okay. And another part of the protocol is, yeah, yeah, we want to look, we want to keep the school. What goes on the server in private is people are able to work on their private lives, their charts, you know, in a comfortable setting that's a controlled environment that a bunch of strangers that are all over the internet don't have access to that information. It's a school, it's a classroom. And when people are working on something, we all need to be conscious of what they're working on and respectful. And we don't want to be bombarded with a bunch of things that are really unimportant and not necessary information. We want to stay focused on the task at hand, which is to help everybody unfold their chart and learn how to read and interpret Uranian astrology, not just in their own charts, but in the charts of other people. So we'll talk to you after class and we'll get a headset. But so now it is working now. I've never had that problem. And I rarely clean my cache out. I do a cleaning of Windows. You still don't have the half sums list? All right. Well, we'll try to figure out what's going on after the class. I apologize for that. So we'll try to help you after the class. Or nice, maybe you can speak to him now. I think he's uh in the applicants room. Are you in the applicants room on the server? Okay. Well, if that's who you are, if you signed on, yeah. Are you Chris G on the server? You're not on Discord anymore. Oh, okay. Well, you got to be on Discord. That's where the classroom is. So, okay. Well, we'll fix that. This is taking a lot of time out here. Okay. All right. Well, you're on YouTube right now, so we'll try to get you on Discord later on at some other point. Let's get back to the task at hand, which is trying to disseminate at least a little bit of information here in Witte's chart. So I forget where I was. I completely forget where I was. Oh, we had started out with Witte's thing, and this was the half sum between Hades and Admetos. So Mercury, which is at 327. So this is this right here is Mercury Uranus. So his karma is technological, astrological, groups of friendships. It's everything that Uranus rules. That's part of his karma and his luck. Do you see this moon Venus? This this is the moon over here, but this puts Venus Mercury over here. So one of his loves, which is clear in his natal chart, is obviously, and it's clear from his life, is obviously astrology. Saturn Apollon, pull the midpoint. His karma, one of his points of karma, but how he's known out in the world. This is why you have to look at the whole chart, by the way. And look at this. Go to the Venus and the Mercury here. So I've spoken with people who speak German, and they're very frustrated by the German that was used 145 years ago. Imagine yourselves being relegated to speak English as it was spoken 145 years ago. This is absolutely part of the problem that we're facing right now. When this could have been translated and it was better understood because it was closer in the period of time and the vernacular is more understood, and people, they forget language is situational and cultural. So things do not translate the same. I've spoken to many people who are fluent in German, some native speakers, and every time we go over this, they always lament the German. I envy them their skill and their language. I'm like, I envy you your German. I wish I could speak German and read and write German. But they tell me, every one of them, it's like, yeah, but if you really were fluent in it, even reading these old documents, you would find that it's incredibly difficult to understand because the language has changed dramatically. It's not the same. They were heavily influenced by Nazism and the language, because German is so precise. The language was designed 145 years ago with the Nazi regime. In particular, this language. So that's part of the thing. Now, he, he had many regulations. He worked for Hamburg, he worked for the district, but also with uh, the astrology. In 1936, he registered in 1937. So I would imagine in 1936, 37, right after the publishing of the book, he's like, listen, guys, I appreciate what you're doing and I love this. Don't get me wrong, but look what's happening here. We're all going to have to call it a day. People are going to jail. There's, I don't want to lose my job. So the story they gave about him not wanting to lose his um, pension, and that's why he committed suicide. There's always some strain of truth in every lie. He probably was like, "Look, I don't want to lose my job. It's wartime." And they turned that into, and God knows, the telephone game. He didn't want to lose his pension because he did separate from people, and he separated from something he loved clearly because the astrology. Harmony lesson. The ancient Babylonian system of math is harmonic, squared up to the 59th, 59 times. Look at his chart. This was part of his karma. Right here, right on that same spot. We can't do his entire chart in this one sitting. You'll realize, if you get through one axis point in an hour, you're lucky. Would you say that's true, Nice? If you can break down one
Yeah,
axis point
absolutely. Yeah,
within an
no,
hour?
it takes some time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're still we're still trying to break down access points from like 2 years ago. We're like, did we finish that? Oh, remember that? Oh, we never got to that. Yeah.
yeah, we
So
never got back to that, but yeah,
what we're trying to do is we're trying to show you the system, and every week as we come on, we'll unfold a little bit more and try to explain different things about the method, because everything has to be incorporated all at once. That's the thing about Uranian astrology. You must learn to read everything all at once.
yeah,
That is hugely key. And never believe that just going to the solar arc sun. And the answer to your question that was during the lecture, Greg, the solar arc sun represents what's going on supposedly that year. So for him, that year, if we go to his solar arc sun, and you come down here, you're going to see his solar arc sun had arrived at this axis point. These were his goals natally. This is what was going on. This is why it takes so long to read an axis point. It's time consuming. So these were his goals that year and what had happened. This was him. Look at this slavery. That year, his solar arc sun had arrived at the spot in his chart that indicated being enslaved. You couldn't leave your home without papers in Nazi Germany. Everywhere you went, you had to have a reason. Martial law. We're about to be facing some of that right now. And this. All right, so we're getting to close to 7 o'clock, and I wanted to touch on something because we did predict it. It was on Facebook, and I posted it on Twitter. Um, when people say, how did you know? In the very same way that we're telling you, look, it takes a lot of time to do this. We could not even possibly begin to break down his chart in one, two, three. It would take several years to piece by piece deconstruct every half sum and explain this to you. We try to touch on most of it, and we rely upon your due diligence and your passion to study and to learn, to do this with your own chart and to do this with everyone else's. And one of the things that I find shocking is that I have taught people just the triple pattern, the quick triple pattern. And I knew, they'd run out there and they're selling it, they're trading the astrology, and you guys are not ready for prime time. You have no idea how many times and how many things you're actually missing. You're good for a $30 or a $40 reading, but you're not ready to be out here trading above your skill set. If you're going to be brokering in this astrology, you need to be able to produce master level skills. And I don't know a single other person other than Nice who's taken their entire chart apart and reconstructed it and understood every part of this. And they're out there calling themselves masters. They're not. They shouldn't be doing it. If you guys have a particular topic or subject or question in Uranian astrology that you've been having trouble with, leave it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Leave it somewhere, preferably YouTube, guys. Preferably on this class, and then we'll get to it next week. Or if there was something you didn't understand about this class, leave it on this class, or the last class, leave it on the last class, and we will go over it the following week. That'll be the format moving forward. Can we please remember that? And to do that in the effort of, making our lives simpler so we're not so our time is actually used helping people unfold the astrology rather than hopping all over the internet, you know, answering questions, which actually I probably won't even answer. If I'm going to be honest, there's a good likelihood that if it's not openly on Facebook on the My Astro World page, not even on the group page, because we need to drag this out into the open. So if it's not on YouTube openly, or it's not on the My Astro World page on Facebook, good possibility I may not even answer your question. Because really, I don't have time to be chasing after all of you. I'm telling you here now, go to YouTube. I'm either going to do astrology or fool around on the internet. And quite frankly, I've had enough chasing around and answering you people on the internet. I'm done with that. That's not a good use of my time. All right. So, with respect to the market prediction, years of experience, guys. It's a lot more than just looking at the transit. The transit, though, let me know where I needed to go and look. And I did, which means that I know what's coming next. And I'm not posting anymore for people to copy off of my paper. That makes me so mad when I make a post like that and then I see somebody go and post it and they don't repeat what I say. Go do the work. Do your homework. Stop cheating off other people's papers. It's one thing to copy a symbol. It's one thing to copy something that's scientific, a formula. You can't make up a formula. For God's sakes, don't, you know, use it in your own words. A formula is a formula, but it's a whole other thing to copy somebody's work and to try to take credit for it like you did it. You didn't do it. And you're going to be in a lot of trouble moving forward because I'm not posting my stuff publicly anymore. I will post in certain ways that'll let certain people know what's going on. Moving forward, I will protect the product and the end result of this work, which is proper Uranian astrology and methodology. And if people want to do Westeranian out there, have fun. You're going to be sinking in a cesspool pretty soon because there's going to be so many problems you're not going to be able to dig yourself out of that pile. All right, so we're going to be back here next week. We'll have another lecture for you, another easy to use slideshow. I think we're probably going to start covering some synastry, and we're going to match the founders with each other and do a couple of famous people, current, like marriage stuff. But I think we need to look at the synastry of the founders as well. So that might take a couple of weeks, and we'll go through that. Thank you all for being here. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, leave your questions, and we appreciate all of your feedback, and we appreciate your continued support and activity here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Ginger.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
saying
you.
so. And I will thank you for
Thank you,
letting me know
everyone.
about the mistakes on the slides. I'm still trying to get used to some of this, but I'll get there. You're welcome. And if you have any questions, seriously, we're here to help you learn the work. What we don't want, the thing we're ranting about, or the thing I rant about, is crappy astrology. I'm happy to help every single one of you be great astrologers. I'm not going to help you guys be substandard astrologers. I'm going to be awful. I'm going to be the most impossible, most difficult person in the world if you want to be a crappy astrologer. Okay? Trust me. I'm helpful and I really love this work and I'm not going to help you fail. I want to see everybody do just top-notch master level Uranian astrology work. I'm sick and tired of this work being dragged through the mud by people. I believe if you click on the top of YouTube right here, I'm pretty sure it'll take you right there. Let me see. Let's try it. I don't want to say anything. That's probably going to be an echo. Hold on. Oh, wait. I'm in the wrong spot anyway. I shouldn't have come here. If you go back to our banner, I went too far. See? Let's see. Right there. There. Okay. If you come up here to our banner, wait. Good. I'm happy to hear that, Petros. Okay. So if you come up here, hold on, we're having a problem right here because it's just being slow. I have a lot of stuff going on here. So right up here, see that little Discord? See that little Discord? Uh, what the hell is that called again? What do they call these things? The
Icon, I
yeah,
guess.
that's the word. that, that that thing. The little it looks like a game. It looks like those game things that Steven because it was a gamer thing.
Right.
Yeah, click on that, and I believe that should take you to the server. You should see an applicants and caller. Let us know before we get off because I'm going to end the show. You're there? Good. By the way, for people who want to sign up, don't try to sign up during the show or during the class. We're doing a show or a class. And don't try to sign up an hour before the show or the class. You have all week. Like, if you haven't signed up by Friday, I swear, this is going to be the new rule. If you haven't signed up by Friday, you don't have a chance of getting in until the following week because I'm not going to bother with it. Yeah, no, you don't have permission. You have to talk to one of us. Nice is going to go talk to you after Nice says goodbye and thank you to everybody, and we're closing out the show. We'll see all of you guys next week. Don't forget, it's going to be Synastry. Great slides, great presentation for next week, and that's really going to make some of this sacred geometry gel. Trust me, Synastry is perhaps one of the fastest ways to learn or grasp sacred geometry, and I think a lot of you that kind of are beginning to get it know that. So again, please don't forget to like, comment, share. We would appreciate that. And we'll see you guys next week.